this is Equal from Crowd Control Gaming. I'm here to make a Mage video for you guys for Frostback 4.2. Quasimodo will not be in this video because currently he's in the hospital, so wish him luck. And here we go. Okay, so let's get started with talents. Here's what I chose. I chose Shatter, Piercing Ice, Improved Cone of Cold, Ice Flows, Permafrost, Fingers of Frost, and now Fingers of Frost has to be the most important talent that you'll have in your Frost tree, because that with Shatter increases the damage that you hit on frozen targets greatly, and Fingers of Frost gives you a chance that whenever you do damage with frost spells, it'll proc your Fingers of Frost, which will allow you to throw ice lances and hit them like they're frozen. Improve Freeze, because this makes your pets Frost Nova give you 2 Fingers of Frost. Icy Veins, Cold Snap, and then we have Enduring Winter, 2 out of the 3 possible points put in it. Ice Barrier, because it's your shield. Shattered Barrier, because Ice Barrier will break, and what Shattered Barrier does is allows you to get another snare without having to cast and lose a global. And then Frostfire Orb, because this will go out straight forward, and it's used a lot against rogues when they do their smoke bomb, because when you send that in, that still hits them and doesn't allow them to get a vanish. Also will allow you to get more Fingers of Frost. And then Deep Freeze, which acts like another immobilizer if they don't trinket out of it, and will allow you to do a great burst of damage. Then we have Burning Soul, which reduces the casting time lost by 70%, which you won't usually need unless, because you shouldn't be getting hit while trying to cast Frostbolt. And then you have Master of Elements, because you will hit a lot of criticals, and this will give you a lot of mana back. Blazing Speed, because it gives you a 10% chance when hit by melee or range based classes to give you a 50% movement speed increase, and will dispel any current snares that you have on you, and this could give you enough to kite them and ultimately make you win. Impact, another talent that's very useful. It procs your Fire Blast, so even if it's on cooldown, you'll instantly get it back. And it also makes it so that when you hit them with it, that it'll interrupt them and stun them for 2 seconds, which is good for using on any healing based classes, because the gap between Counterspell and Deep Freeze is pretty wide, with both of them having long cooldowns, and this can be enough that will give you a chance to silence them enough to kill them. Okay, so now that talents are out of the way, let's go to glyphs. So for my glyphs, I chose Glyphed Molten Armor, which gives 2% more spell critical strike chance, making the total for Molten Armor 5%, and then with frozen targets, the Shatter combo for that will be 15% more. Glyphed Icy Veins, which acts like another snare remover, so that like you're dazed, you can use it and then you'll be back to your normal speed. But the downside is it doesn't work for stuns, nor does it work for fears. And then Glyph Frostfire Bolt, which makes your Frostfire Bolt hit for 15% more damage, and also implies a dot that will do 3% additional damage over 12 seconds, stacking up to 3 times, making it 9%. But the downside is it doesn't reduce the victim's speed movement, so you won't have the 40% speed decrease, but it will make up for it, because you usually always have your Frostbolt reduce on. Glyphed Evocation, because it's 40% more health, and when you can use it, it's very beneficial. Glyph of Ice Lance, which increases the damage of your Ice Lance by 5%, which I found to be very useful because you end up using your Ice Lance a lot, and the more damage you can do, the better. Glyphed Ice Barrier, which increases the amount that your Ice Barrier absorbs by 30%. I think this one's beneficial because it can be enough that melee classes won't break it if you can snare them in time. Glyphed Arcane Brilliance, which reduces the mana cost of your Arcane Brilliance by 50%, which can be beneficial because a lot of the times classes will dispel as many buffs as they can, and this one can get costly over a while. Glyph Slowfall, because not having to carry the regents makes a mage's life much more happier. Glyph of the Penguin, because there was no other very beneficial minors, and it's basically up to your choice. Okay, now that glyphs are out of the way, we'll do a demonstration on some target dummies here in Darnassus. Notice the amount of procs that you get from your Frostfire orb and the amount of criticals that you have, and each one of those are refunding 30% of the base mana cost, which is beneficial because you have Molten Armor on, which increases your critical strike chance by 5% on targets that aren't frozen, and 15% by targets that are frozen. And that's about it for the demonstration. Next that I want to talk about is your armors. When you're in any battleground and you're not in combat, what I always choose to keep on is Mage's armor because it increases your resistance by 45, allows you to regenerate 3% of your maximum mana every 5 seconds, and a lot of the times you'll either be opened up on by rogues or you'll be opened by casters, and if it's casters, it reduces the duration of any magic effects used against you by 35%. So like the dots of a warlock or spell dots from any other class, they don't reach their full timing. But if you are opened up against by a melee class, I strongly recommend switching to Frost Armor because it reduces physical damage taken by 15%, and it also slows the enemy down by 40%, and it does increase the time between their attacks by 20%, but most of the time you'll get away from by the 40%, so the 20% doesn't really affect you that much. And then if you're not being opened up on and you get the chance to open on someone else, I would choose to use Molten Armor because it makes your critical strike chance because of your glyph 5% more, and then if they're frozen targets, then it'll be 15% more because of Shatter, and that could be the difference between you bursting them down and them switching over to you. And then always keep Arcane Brilliance on you because it boosts your spell power by 6%, and it also increases your mana by 2,100, but that's not that much, but the spell power is what's needed. Well guys, that's it. Thanks for watching, and my next video I'll post my gear and what I reforged it to and what I gemmed it on, and I hope this helped anyone. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment or send us a message, and please subscribe and like. Thank you. Bye.